Hey, the Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit is made possible by Samaritas, which is the state's largest private foster care and adoption agency. But they do a heck of a lot more than that. They've been serving homeless families, persons with disabilities, abused and trafficked women. They're also one of the largest resettlement agencies in the state. They provide market rate and affordable housing for seniors and HUD housing for families. And they also have skilled nursing, memory care, and rehab communities in Grand Rapids, Cadillac, and Saginaw. Samaritas, thanks for their support. Great organization, doing great stuff all around the state. Welcome to the week that was on Deadline Detroit. I'm Craig Fahle, and as usual, I am joined by my wonderful compatriots here at Deadline. Nancy Derringer and Alan Lengel are here. And we brought in a ringer this week. Attorney Joel Sklar is with us. Yeah. He's a veteran of the Friday Follies and decided to join us today, take time out of his busy Friday, I'm sure.
These are, good topics.
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on. And obviously we'll get to some of the big news of the week. But really, I wanted to start with this because I thought this was kind of funny. This was forwarded to me by a friend the other day who happens to be somebody who likes Donald Trump. Somebody I've known for a long time, and he just said, this one's a little bit beyond the pale. Now, this is from the official Trump-Pence fundraising page. This is their official campaign 2020 page, and they have a poll that we could do. So I thought we'd have a little fun by starting out by doing this poll and answering the questions. Because I think it's important for you to hear how these questions are phrased, because this one is great. We've seen a number of these already. Right. Like, how great a job is President Trump doing?
Awesome,
really great,
or super awesome?
Or super awesome, exactly. But this one is the official 2020 Trump versus Democrat poll.
Okay.
And of course, it's Democrat. They always have to say Democrat.
Yeah, Democrat.
But the first question is, who would you rather see fix our nation's shattered immigration policies? And your choices are President Trump or a MS-13 loving Democrat. Those are your choices.
Damn, MS-13 all the way.
MS-13 loving Democrat.
As well.
Because I think you'd have a hard time finding an MS-13 loving Democrat. You might, but that's a toss-up there.
Might be locked up.
Toss-up for me.
Right.
Might be another MS-13 Democrat.
Right.
Question number 2. Who do you trust more to protect America from foreign and domestic threats? President Trump or a corrupt Democrat?
Ooh.
I'd got to go corrupt Democrat. That's an easy one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the corrupt
Or
Democrat.
I'd like to go back to MS-13 Democrats. I'm sticking with that. Right.
Now, this one's good. Who would you rather handle our nation's economy? President Trump or 5 points extra for anybody that guesses what the answer might be.
Sleepy Joe Biden?
Is it Lion or
Lion Ted?
corrupt?
No, neither of those two. Nice try, though.
Okay.
The answer is a radical socialist Democrat.
Ooh, radical socialist.
Wow.
All right.
Now, and we're not going to go through all of them because they're
Bernie
really, really
Sanders.
bad. But this is my favorite one. This is the one I really, really struggled with, actually, when I was thinking about how to answer this poll. Number 4, who do you believe is more transparent with the American people? President Trump or a lying Democrat?
Oh, I got lying.
A lying Democrat.
Definitely a lying Democrat.
See, a lying
God,
Democrat
yes.
doesn't lie as much as President Trump.
I mean,
the biggest lying Democrat does not.
But I love the fact that he has to compare himself to the lowest of the low.
Right,
It's the only way he's going to get the answers he needs to actually win the poll.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
A lying Democrat.
Although, come on. This is the kind of thing
There's
that you're...
sleazy Democrat, lying Democrat, low energy Democrat, low IQ Democrat, and radical socialist again.
Is there any other Democrat, by the way? That's what I like to know.
I know.
This is the
It's
kind
like,
of thing...
who would you rather trust your money with, Trump or Bernie Madoff?
But the language in there is what's bothering me a lot. I mean, because
Come
you
on.
can see... Well,
this
it
is
does.
a campaign website. You put your grandma in front of it, you show her how to use the mouse, and you let her take the poll. So, that's... Come on. This is not polling.
Yeah, it's
I understand, but at the
Exercise.
same time, it's the language that's going to be used because this is not going to be about issues, anybody. This is not about issues this time
you're
around.
kidding.
You can imagine when they see that poll and they're like, President, MS-13 guy.
45%. Yeah.
Anyway, that was kind of fun. And the fact that it was a Republican that gave it to me was just sort of like, this is going a little too far.
Oh, really?
It's getting a little ridiculous.
Well, it's good to know that some people have a bottom, and they've reached
that is
it.
important.
Well, this show is called The Week That Was, but frankly, it should just be called The Day That Was because all these things we're talking about today happened in like the last day almost.
24 hours.
Let's stay on President Trump for just a little bit. His labor secretary, Alex Acosta, announced his resignation today. Shock of shocks.
Yeah.
Backlash, of course, over his non-prosecution, really, of Jeffrey Epstein, who this story is getting more sorted by the minute. This Jeffrey Epstein guy, of course, this billionaire...
Alleged
billionaire.
Right.
But it looks like Acosta and his time as a prosecutor down in Florida really bent over backwards to make sure this guy didn't spend any real time in jail. And Joel, you're here, and I want to get your take on this because I think the real knock on him here is that there was an agreement to not prosecute a non-prosecution agreement with the federal government on this one in exchange for this short jail sentence, but they didn't notify the victims' families that they'd entered into this so that the federal case was going to be dismissed.
Right.
How big a problem is that?
Well, according to the federal judge, it was a huge problem. You know, the victims were supposed to be notified, supposed to be consulted, supposed to know what's going on with the prosecution of a predator. And they weren't notified. It's a huge problem, and I think it's why there was so much stench associated with this. Is just that's one reason. Also, the painfully ridiculous lenient sentence. You know, basically living at home in a gilded cage. What the hell is that? Yeah. But yeah, it's certainly problematic. The due process rights of the victims were completely forgotten about and abrogated, and they were victimized not just by Epstein, but in a sense by the government when they're not included in the proper sentence. How should we handle this, gentlemen? It's disturbing on every possible level.
Well, and so now, of course, we've got this federal case that has been reopened here from New York State. Prosecutors there have a 53-page indictment that was brought against them in Florida that they're using as the basis for their case. They're saying that the evidence within is devastating. We may get to see this at some point in time. But I think there's a whole lot of nervous people out there right now.
Oh, there should be. There should be. I mean, you look at, and this has happened, this narrative has happened over and over again, and we're starting to see it in the Me Too stories, which is that it's not just what this person did. It's all the people who are around him who knew what he was doing and either ignored it, which is the best thing they probably could have done, or actively colluded with him.
There's enablers and there's participants.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I'm really curious to know who was enabling, because it seems like some of his staff, was enabling, right? Was helping recruit, and they may have been victims who were then nurtured to be recruiters, and who participated. I mean, you hear, you see pictures with Bill Clinton. I'm sure that Mr. Epstein has a whole contingency of people who were enjoying these parties.
You've seen the story of the 4 scientists on his airplane. Have you seen this? Or seen this photograph? He had this thing. I mean, he's a very strange man, and he had this fondness for science. I guess he really liked to cultivate salons of scientists and so forth. And so there's apparently some photograph out there of these 4 deeply homely, middle-aged college professor types, like who he was flying to some conference free of charge because he loved them so much, and it's like they're all just kind of sitting there, and they're all freaking out now, of course, because this is all coming out, and I think they may be the only innocents in all of this, because they're like, he said he'd take us on his airplane. I don't know what was there.
It was just a nice trip.
It was just he respected my work.
Well, like I said, there's a lot of people that are nervous. I mean, Bill Clinton already said, "Well, I only took 4 trips with him so they're like 20,
and only 3 were to
trips.
Disneyland."
Well,
Bill Clinton was always mathematically challenged.
Clinton, but also
Donald Trump, and who knows who else?
Alan Dershowitz.
Alan Dershowitz is
lots
one.
of people who hang out down in Palm Beach. Apparently, as the Don Trump said, the Palm Beach crowd was well aware of him. But he used to say he was a great guy. He did like women. They liked him a little young though.
A little on
and
the
now he's like,
side.
I never was a fan.
Yeah.
So
14,
everybody,
a little young.
Everybody's bending over backwards to distance themselves from this guy, and I'm not sure it's going to be that easy for everybody.
Well, I hope the entire sewage treatment plant is opened and we get to see like exactly what is the depths of this depravity. It's going to be pretty bad.
It's going to surprise us. I think the depths are going to be lower than we think, quite frankly. And the people that are involved, I think some of the names will shock us. That's just how revelations typically work. So I'm
how
real
much
curious
more
how it
shocking
goes.
can we get it? I mean, between this and the Me Too movement, I don't know that we can be shocked. I mean, all the names that already come out in the Epstein thing of who's associated with them, and all the names that have come out. Charlie Rose, all the Me Too thing.
It's just the entire organization that had to be devoted to procuring.
Right.
I mean, this is a lifestyle choice. This
he turned it into a pyramid scheme.
And all those who are involved, especially names that we are going to recognize, is just I think we are going to be somewhat surprised. We may not be shocked per se, because God knows how we can be shocked anymore with so much information out in the world.
Right.
But I think we're going to be surprised.
And there's some serious time to be had for conviction of this. Jared from of Subway fame.
Oh, right.
I can't remember how many years.
Did he get like 14 or? I thought he got some significant time.
Yes,
I think he's in federal prison, and it's 15, more than 15 years.
Yeah.
And
They
so
don't have any
I don't know how
subs in
old
there for him.
No,
Epstein is. What, 66?
66, yeah.
66. So he's got to do at least 10 if he's convicted. I would
least.
think a minimum.
Yeah.
So we have another cabinet resignation today in Alex Acosta because, again, the pressure on this, he doesn't have a good excuse for this. He's
Right.
got to go, obviously. But this happens today. Yesterday, we also had a situation in which President Trump announced that he was backing off this census citizenship question, threatened to do some sort of executive order, then comes up with this executive order yesterday to say, well, we're going to use other government means to get this citizenship information. I'm ordering this to happen.
Right.
Well, it already happens.
Right.
The government already collects this data in a number of different ways. So this is not anything new that he is doing here, but he's trying to save face, or the fact that he had no argument to make to put things on once the Supreme Court smacked him down on this question. Even his attorneys in the Justice Department said, we don't have a good reason. He still was trying to save face yesterday. Bill Barr comes out there and says, I'd like to, commend this president for this tough action on this thing. I mean, the butt kisser extraordinaire in the Attorney General's office is just sinking to new lows with this.
Can we call him Smoochie?
Bill
from now
Barr.
on?
I kind of like it.
Bill Barr lost credibility right from the very beginning. Once he did summary of the Mueller report,
right.
and then he had the press conference. That's no role of an attorney general. His role is not to make the president look good, and he's done nothing but try to cover for President Trump, and it's unfathomable. Even the crookedest of, I don't know, John Mitchell worked to make Nixon look good the way William Barr has with Trump.
Well, and of course, trying to paper over the fact that they got their butt kicked on this one. They didn't know what they were doing. They had no argument, and the president was still trying to force a square peg into a round hole, and he finally had to give up on this one and tried to save face, I suppose, yesterday. But this was just a foolish exercise at the end of an otherwise very strange afternoon with this social media summit that he had.
Oh my
There were
God.
argument before the
This whole
Supreme
day
Court.
yesterday was just a cluster for the president. Nothing good
Did you
came out
and
of
the tweets
yesterday.
and the tweet storms too?
Well,
that was,
of course.
Yeah, that was something too. So right.
The argument before the Supreme Court was so lame. I think what Trump tells the American
Even John
people.
Roberts couldn't justify it.
Right. What Trump tells the American people, I think they assume everybody is as gullible, and so they go before the Supreme Court with this ridiculous thing, thinking they can blow smoke up the asses of the Supreme Court justices.
I think it's Trump's view that the Supreme Court owes him, right? That he's got Kavanaugh, he's got Gorsuch, that they're going to do his
Right.
bidding because that's
Right.
how he looks at the world.
Right.
That I put
They're
you
disloyal
someplace-
for.
Right.
Right. That would be his position. They're disloyal to me. They haven't followed me. They haven't supported me. And that's Trump. That's the characterological problem that Trump is that
Right.
everybody owes fealty. Government means nothing. Institutions mean nothing. He means everything. And that's
Right.
despotic.
He's a,
but that's what he
he's-
is.
He's a mob boss.
Right.
I mean, that's
what it is. It's a
Yeah.
big, it's a RICO case.
That's
Right.
why
It's
Jim
crazy.
Comey was gone because he tried to work Comey and said, "Why don't you leave? Michael Flynn, give him a break.
He's a
and
good
Why are
guy."
you doing this? And come on." And Comey's like,
It's not
what
supposed to
the
work
hell? Yeah. It was interesting. Preet Bharara was on the Colbert Show, and he was talking about how Trump called him into the Trump Tower, and said, "Hey, I want you to continue on as U.S. Attorney," even though he was an Obama appointee. And he said, "Oh, great." And so then once he became president, he gets a call from Trump. He doesn't return the call, and he says within 22 hours of him not returning the call, he's fired.
That's just
And he was like, how many times I took a call from Obama? He goes, 0.
Right. You're not supposed to talk
Yeah,
to him. I mean,
right.
that's like part of the
Right, he
that's
says
part of
it's
the
just
independence
not-
of the
But
department.
the rules don't apply to Trump.
No,
I mean,
of course not.
the rules don't apply to him. It's amazing to me, but it's true.
I know.
But something that should have bothered people yesterday was this social media summit that took place.
Oh, that was-
which basically was
oh
just an
my
opportunity
God.
for a clown show of the most vicious trollers on the right,
Right.
to come in there and bitch that the social media companies are somehow cutting off their access,
Deplatforming them.
Well,
Yeah,
exactly. Which
exactly.
is if you look at the most shared articles on Facebook, they
Yeah.
all come from places like Daily Caller and some of the right wing stuff
Daily
like that.
Wire, yeah.
And so and of course
Breitbart.
all that
Yeah.
stuff. So nobody's silencing any of these
No.
folks. But you had Sebastian Gorka,
there yesterday who basically threatened to beat up a reporter from Playboy. He's in the White House press corps.
Yeah, he's yelling, and he's yelling in the Rose
Calling
Garden.
him a punk in the Rose Garden.
And then one of these cretins that's sitting in the people's house yells back, "He could kick your ass,
kick your punk ass,
your punk."
That was exactly what he said. And this was in the Rose Garden of the White House. This is
Right.
what we have devolved to.
Exactly. And yeah, the last 48 hours, they've been very bad for the Republic, I would say.
Well, I'm not sure that we can't recover
and who
from
was
this.
that freak in the woman in the?
I don't know who she is, but she had that.
I think I know who she might be.
They had her name in one of the articles I was reading this morning about this, but I watched the video.
I think she appeared at the We Build the Wall town hall down at Cobo Center because she's
you went to
known,
that.
Yeah, I did go to that. And she's known for wearing these like costumey things. And then all I remember about her is that she sang the national anthem because apparently that's her thing. She's a singer, and she muffed the lyrics. So there we go.
Well, there you go. God bless America.
I wrote it down.
They don't all rhyme.
Land that I like.
Okay, so it's a little bit different. It's a challenge for all of us.
Okay. All right. Let's get away from Trump for a little bit because we could do this every
really
week.
Exhausting.
But let's go local because we have our own shenanigans that are taking place here at any sort of public meetings that are going on. The Board of Police Commissioners. One of the police commissioners was escorted out in cuffs at a meeting. We had another situation where an activist, Miko Williams, was escorted from a meeting. About the Charter Commission. So between the Charter Commission and the police commissioners, these meetings are not going very, very well.
A friend of mine, when my daughter was having her first birthday party, she said, "Remember, it's not a first birthday party until they dissolve into tears." And I'm thinking that we can say that about it's not a meeting in Detroit until someone is taken out in handcuffs.
Until the grape is thrown.
Exactly.
I mean, that's sort of what we're talking about. But I mean, there are a number of activists that show up at all of these different meetings, and they want their voices heard. They want their point of view to get across. But it seems as if this is devolving into really a system that just isn't going to work. Robert's Rules of Order don't seem to apply anymore.
No, you can't just scream.
You can't just sit there and go, "You're out of order," with a gavel, and everybody's going to respectfully shut up. We have entered a new realm, have we not?
Well, there's chaos. I mean, we live in a time of chaos.
Chaos reigns.
Absolutely, and there is a purpose in that. Right, with chaos, there's instability. We don't know where we're going. We don't feel comfortable, quite frankly, maybe even speaking out because of the chaotic nature of the response. And so we're just in a world of random, crazy chaos that's being stirred for political purposes. Certainly by Trump, he loves chaos. He generates chaos, and that's the time we live in, which is why it's a terrifying time.
Well,
at least for me.
Good.
I mean, these are legitimate questions,
Seconded.
especially at the police commissioner meeting. I mean, they're talking about facial recognition software. What are the limits?
Which is an emotional topic.
It is an emotional topic
for people of color.
Absolutely, and well, there's anybody that likes freedom in America is rightfully worried about this.
Exactly.
I mean, granted, the NSA can pick us out from space probably with facial recognition software, but do you want that? You want your local cops doing that? And these are legitimate discussions that need to be had. It would be nice if we could actually get the different points of view out in a meeting without people screaming and freaking out about procedure and things like that.
I know.
It's important that we have some sort of decorum.
Of course. I mean, you're
And the
preaching to
Charter
the choir
Commission,
here.
I don't want to get into the Charter Commission. Have they done anything yet?
No.
Have they accomplished anything?
They've had some rockin' meetings, but they haven't really done anything.
Entertainment.
But there's also
the
entertainment aspect.
There's
of
also
it.
the case to be made that they didn't need to do anything. I don't even understand. They just did revise the charter in 2012, and they went to district. I mean, that was a good revision. They went to district, city council districts instead of having everybody at large.
Yeah.
They installed some people in the administration and an ombudsman, et cetera, and they didn't need to reopen it. I guess it was reopened by just a few votes. I'm trying to remember Violet's story about it.
It was not a big margin.
Exactly.
There wasn't this overwhelming demand to get this done.
So now we have this factional fighting between the corporatists and the people's faction. And it's just, nothing's going to get done, but that's probably not a bad thing.
Well,
Nothing should be getting done.
Should we talk about some local corruption?
I love
this video that the FBI...
Does my name come up? That's the first thing.
This FBI video
if
that
not,
got released.
then let's go ahead and do it.
You've got a businessman named Fazullah Khan, who is from Troy, who is apparently bribing Macomb County.
What a surprise.
Once again, shocked Macomb County. So everybody always likes to talk about corruption in Detroit, possible corruption in Detroit.
Oh, no, Macomb County.
FBI seems to be really, really focused on Macomb County and what's going on. But so there's basically, they have him on video handing an envelope full of cash.
Yeah.
Over to Washington Township Supervisor Dan O'Leary. Now, apparently,
An Irishman.
Yeah, well, but he was cooperating with the FBI.
Oh, okay.
So they caught this guy giving the bribes,
okay.
and so
it's a great little. We always hear about bribes, and we don't know how it's done, but it's done so
fat envelope.
smugly.
Yeah.
The guy sits down, and he just goes, and he's like, kind of like, okay, and the guy takes it, who's working with the FBI, and he just kind of discreetly puts it away, and they go about their business. But it's just interesting how just kind of like.
Do you take Venmo? That's what I want to hear on one of these things.
So I think it was cool to be able to see it.
See exactly how it goes down.
How it goes down, because we
Here's how
hear
graft
about
works.
bribery.
Right. The fat envelope, very Sopranos.
But I mean, Macomb County, there's been rumors and things like that about Macomb County for a long time, especially with this guy who's really been the focus, this Sal Morocco, where he's been identified as the target.
Right.
And it's spread out to all sorts of different people. But, is it time for us to put to bed this notion that Detroit is the corrupt place and these suburbs are these glittering cities on the hill? Because I'm sorry, there's a lot of dirt.
I don't know that Macomb has ever had this clean image. I mean, we haven't. I don't recall that we've had a lot of corruption, public corruption in Oakland County or Washtenaw County, but Macomb has sort of had an ongoing running reputation. It's sort of like Chicago.
More rough and tumble place.
Yeah,
right.
Rough and tumble.
Not as white or silk stocking as Oakland.
Right. They're more discreet there.
I'm glad Candace Miller is running that department now, though.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if that changes things. I assume it will, but
we'll see.
At least they got rid of the giant blob of fat that was in the pipes there.
Yeah, the Fatberg. Love those.
That's
I
kind of
don't
a nice
see Anthony
thing.
Morocco pointing to with a piece of Fatberg in front of him at a press conference.
No, probably not.
There's
gross.
a culture, there was a culture there, a long culture. Just like, I think about this with Kwame Kilpatrick, where he says, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't steal any money or something. And to him, he didn't do anything wrong, because that's the way he was taught. That's how you do business. That's how you, as a politician, you get a little schmear. You get a little something.
No, you get a little piece for you.
Yeah, you get a little piece for you, and that's the way it works. You know, you come and you
like
give my dad some money. He'll talk to me. He'll give me something, or you just give me a little bit of, you give me a little envelope. And so to him, he's like, I'm not stealing.
This is the way the system works.
Right, sort of the quid pro quo.
And that's Macomb has had that culture for a long time.
I'm convinced. I'm just convinced that every governmental agency, it can be rife with corruption that we don't know about. There's, are people serving their own interests? Are they serving the public interest? That's always the question.
Right.
And what we know about is shocking. What we don't know about, my God. And so I'm always very suspicious of that. I don't think I started that way, but the more that I see how government works and how I don't understand how certain results come out, now I become somebody who's suspicious of everything.
When I went to the Lansing Bureau of the Detroit News, I came in very, very skeptical, and I left far more respectful, because I thought there were a lot of really good, honest lawmakers.
Oh, I think there are.
And then when I went to Washington, D.C., look at the Post, I said, okay, let's be open-minded. And I left very cynical, because I think there was a lot of corruption.
The dollar amounts are a lot
Hill.
higher in Washington.
Yeah.
It's we get people getting busted for bribes for $5,000-$10,000 here, or sausage in some cases, as we saw with an ex-city council member many years ago. And that's what. In fact, I was listening to the guy who's stepping down as the special agent in charge here, and he's saying, I'm shocked at how low
the bar is.
For taking bribes in this town. And like in Washington, you get some giant lobbying group that wants a piece of legislation.
Yeah.
You
better bring a briefcase.
That's right. That's exactly it.
An envelope isn't going to hold it all.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So that's kind of interesting. But well, let's go to Detroit for just a second.
Okay.
A big story in the Free Press today that I want to talk a little bit about.
Sure.
There's an employee there who is arguing or saying that she was ordered to delete emails that related to this Make Your Date program, the one that Mayor Duggan has been under scrutiny for, this nonprofit that has been out there. There's been a lot of questions about money that may have gone there, resources that may have gone to aid this nonprofit that the mayor, of course, is alleged to have a personal relationship with the person running it.
Right.
This person says that there were people that told them to delete emails related to this.
That person should be fired. Not the person who was told to delete, the person who told them to delete.
Yeah, and this is the one thing. I mean, I'm just saying, from my remembrance, we had conversations all the time. Save everything.
Right.
Never delete any emails. Keep them all. If they're anything business related, you must keep them all and never delete them.
Right.
That was the rule. And they apparently recovered these emails. They were able to recover the emails that were lost, is what the city is suggesting at this point in time. But we don't know who is responsible for the order at this point in time.
Okay. So it
but if
wasn't a
that's true,
mistake.
if somebody ordered them to delete the emails, that's a real problem.
Yeah, that could be obstruction of justice.
Exactly.
It could be all sorts of, anytime you're destroying evidence, you're covering something up by definition. I mean, that's why you're destroying the evidence. So it raises a million red flags. And, there's criminal penalties perhaps, certainly civil. I mean, I just hope this employee who has come forward doesn't suffer any retaliation.
Well, she's already, she was suspended from her job for a while. They said for job performance issues, things along that. She argued that she was suspended, but she wasn't really. She was on family medical leave. So there is some backstory there. We don't know. I mean, is there some vindictiveness here? Maybe. But like I said, I think it will come out at some point in time.
Right.
But Dana Nessel's office is looking into it. The Inspector General in Detroit is looking into it. So this is one of those that gets a little scary.
When that story broke, I and a couple of friends read like the initial Free Press stories about this thing, and we came to the same conclusion, which is this kind of looks like a nothing burger. I mean, it's not a lot of money. It's a good charity. This doctor is a authority on this
stuff. Is a legitimate doctor. I mean, if she were qualified, that would be a whole different.
It's not Dr. Oz getting
right.
I mean,
and it was really hard to kind of figure out what the bad thing was that other than the fact that the mayor's
is married,
and that he apparently has some kind of personal relationship with this one. And it almost seemed like the story was written so that her name could be aired.
Sure.
Because most of the legit media were just saying a woman rather than her actual name. And so now,
and now it's entree to mention.
Yeah, exactly. So now suddenly we have like this sub tornado that's going to spin around this thing for no reason. I'm still not convinced that this is so terrible.
Yeah.
But
we shall see.
Maybe I'll let Charlie LaDuff convince me at some point.
Charlie's work, of course, here at DeadlineDetroit.com.
Here at DeadlineDetroit.com.
All right. Well, let's talk about another questionable ethical thing. Eric Sabri, of course, the treasurer in Wayne County, the person responsible for the county auction. There were complaints that his family had bought property through the auction, which they were not supposed to be eligible to do under the auction rules. Anybody who's connected to it, their family cannot buy property under the auction. But his wife and his son have both bought properties in the past. One was a company that his wife operates, had bought some rental properties apparently, and then his son bought a property back in 2017. The ethics board cleared him 5-1. Said that there's not enough here. There are still some questions as to how thoroughly they looked into this. But Warren Evans, who of course is the county exec, was complaining still yesterday that there's something that's not right here, and he didn't like that the ethics board just dismissed it as quickly as they did.
We need to have an ethics investigation into the ethics board.
Investigate the investigators.
Yeah.
I've heard that refrain before.
Yes.
I didn't like it when I heard it the first time.
Yeah.
This time I don't mind it so much.
Right.
Do you know what seems to be happening though? This is a little bit removed from this. I think what's happening around the foreclosure auction is kind of similar to the shift in the wind that's happened regarding like the Illiches. Suddenly the Illiches have gone from being, saviors of Detroit to, the arrogance. And I mean, Nolan Finley wrote a column yesterday about the sleaziness of the tax auction. There's a story in Bridge today about how the University of Michigan has apparently invested in some of these gigantic entities that are buying, hundreds of homes at a time and then evicting people.
Sure.
So I kind of get and we all know, I mean, Jerry Paffendorf can talk your ear off about how the profits that the county has realized on this, from this real estate auction has allowed the county to survive some very rough times, but the cost of evicting people from their houses went for sometimes over unpaid tax bills of like $20. So I just wonder if this isn't part of. I mean, all these stories are going to pile up, and eventually we're going to start seeing this tax foreclosure auction treated very differently than it was
potentially. But again, this is a state law that has to be changed because every county operates under the same rules, and there's a lot of other county treasurers out there that don't want the system changed because this is their hammer to get people to pay their taxes. And in other communities that don't have the financial issues and you don't have a population that's,
but when
that's
you have
as
a county
poor,
treasurer who can like pluck properties at will out of the auction.
Sort of.
Well, but I mean, they're not. The rules are. The deck is stacked in favor of the people with money and against the people with no money, and it's not fair. So, if I understand it's a state law, and I understand that it's necessary to get people to pay their taxes, but at the same time, there's some real problems with it that maybe need to be ironed out.
One of the changes they made to the state law a few years ago was to prevent people who lost their homes from foreclosure from being able to buy them back in the auction. And the whole reason that they did that was to keep the speculators from defaulting, never paying the taxes, losing them to foreclosure, and then just buying them back at the next auction cycle. And they were trying to prevent that from happening. But in reality, all it's done is hurt those people that maybe could buy their house back at the auction who were living there.
Right.
And instead, you just change the name of your LLC and you buy the properties.
Right.
Anyway.
So that the Mike Kellys and
Exactly.
so forth can keep doing this.
It was a solution that didn't necessarily do what it was purported to do.
Oh, that never happens.
I think they're going to try to. I mean, I understood the argument around it, but this is something that's likely going to have to change because Wayne County's its own animal with this.
Right.
And there are other communities that have the problem the way that Detroit does, but nothing to this scale.
No.
And so I'm not sure how it's going to change, but it is going to require action in Lansing to do so. And that's never. I don't think you're going to get a lot of Republican lawmakers to sign on to this because every one of their treasurers is going to say we don't like it.
Yeah.
Because they like to have the ability to foreclose.
Yeah.
And, that matters to them. They're like, Wayne County's its own problem. If you do something specific to Wayne County, it might not be constitutional.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you're probably right.
So it's going to be difficult. Hey, we've only got a couple minutes left, but I want to talk about this video on Deadline Detroit that's been getting a lot of traffic that we put up. I believe it was TMZ that got this video originally. You've got a guy named Malik McDowell who played for Michigan State. He was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks back in 2017 in the second round, but was cut from the team recently.
Cut after this incident.
But it's just now the video of it is becoming public. This guy gets pulled over for drunk driving at 12 in Southfield at that marathon station there last winter.
Yeah,
and
snow on the ground.
He clearly sounds as if he is a little bit intoxicated.
A little bit.
Asking for a supervisor, maybe.
Right.
As he's being tasered. But you have a cop who's my size. And I'm 5'7", everybody. I'm not a tall human being here by any stretch. And this football player is like 6'6", 300 pounds or something like that. He is 6'6", 300. And you have a guy who's probably about $165 trying to take him down. Right. And this guy's just refusing. And he's just sort of pushing him away like get out of my way.
Swatting him away like a bear.
And he tases him.
The guy was
and
like
the guy just
little...
pulls it out of his chest, and he's just like, and he still gets up and he tries to take him on. And it finally took this woman cop to come in to actually get him handcuffed and to get him to settle down. But I was just sort of shocked at this. And I'm looking at the Lathrop Village police officer. I can understand him feeling disrespected. But in certain situations, you're like, maybe it's just better if I let this dude sit here for a couple minutes before I tase him.
Until
let
I
him
get
back
a little
up.
back
Or
up,
maybe I do get my supervisor to help me cuff him.
Exactly.
Well, you're supposed to de-escalate. I mean, there's like a whole continuum of force that officers use, because I do a lot of these police brutality cases. And what happens is you're supposed to first de-escalate, settle everything down, use a calm indoor voice, and try to mellow things out. And this thing escalated quick.
So when you looked at the video, what did you think about the cops' actions?
If I were him, I'd probably do the same thing. I mean, it's terrifying. I mean, from the perspective of the officer, you're right. He's a diminutive guy like me. I'm 5'7". I'm a guy who's 6'6", 300 pounds. I'm going to be terrified.
Yeah.
And you're worried about getting hurt, getting the situation to control. It's a dynamic situation. I have a lot of respect for officers. They're in a difficult position to begin with. And when I saw the video, I'm thinking, I see what's going on in the guy's head. I can't say that I would respond any differently, because you're in this, especially with someone who's not being responsive at all and who's intimidating just by size
just keeps
alone.
Repeating the same phrase over and over.
He was a pit bull. The cop was a pit bull,
supervisor.
man. He just grabbed on. I mean, but I feel bad that a lot of, during the whole scuffle, some Pringles were destroyed.
Well, they're in the can.
They were in the can.
They were in the
Maybe that
can.
could be saved, but
They probably are still edible.
There were some snacks that I
Were they
think
barbecue or
were
plain? Because that would change my entire
It
perspective.
did utterly wreck at least this one
I feel
area
bad for the owner of the store.
of this little
but-
store. I mean, those
He's just like, what's going on here?
Oh my
But
God.
like Malik McDowell's history, he had a great contract, and then he had an ATV accident that basically Seattle's now come back after his bonus money of like $800,000.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's, it's interesting. He was like a phenom who everybody wanted on their team, was drafted in the second round. Now, where is
And
he
then he
now? I think
screwed it
that
up.
story is just, I mean, those stories.
Somebody, were you
move
saying
me.
the Dallas Cowboys have
The
expressed some
Cowboys had
interest?
apparently had a meeting with him. It doesn't mean they took him
I think
on.
the Cowboys should try to get the cop. I mean, I thought he was pretty
It's like Rudy.
ferocious.
Tenacious.
Small, right?
Yeah,
Small,
yeah.
Rangy.
Rudy.
through those
Rudy.
holes. Yeah.
Yeah, good defensive tackle, maybe.
A lot of heart.
I looked at it though, but
Rudy.
if you're the cop and this guy's clearly under the influence, he's driving 60 miles an hour down Southfield and skidding out on the
They
snow.
said he spun out.
And he goes in to get some chips or a snack or whatever, I would have just called for backup and been waiting for him when he came out of the store.
Right, sure.
And, then all of a sudden you've got to show a force so people can see that there's enough people there and maybe he'd subdue.
Yeah.
And he says, I want the supervisor. And the guy could say, hey, I'm the supervisor on duty right now. And we'll bring our supervisor in and you can talk to him in jail. And that's the way to handle that, it seems to me.
Well, he should have, when he kept saying, I need a supervisor, say, hold on. Should have got on and said, I need some assistance here.
Yeah, they must have like a code for that. I've got a code.
Preferably somebody 6 feet or taller, maybe 250, who runs a 4 or 540.
But clearly the phaser set on stun did not work.
Yeah, it did.
They definitely needed to set it at the higher level. They needed phaser 2 for that one because
it reminded me of one of those old those Mutual of Omaha Wild Kingdoms where they dart the
wildebeest and it keeps going. Yeah, it's like, oh my God,
like,
get another dart.
It's huge.
Well, and again, it didn't even seem to phase him. I mean, clearly it was irritating, but it was more like a mosquito buzzing around his ear. He's just like, get that out of here.
You can hear the thing go.
Yeah, and you can hear him just yank it out of his body.
I mean, clearly the guy was being belligerent. He was being a jerk. But at some point, while he's sitting sort of in the corner there, and he's telling him to get down on his face, I mean, we've seen some instances where people have died in instances like that where they have. And I could see where the guy had some concerns at that point that for his safety.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, last question for everybody because we do have to go. How much trouble should Ford be in for selling cars that they knew had bad transmissions?
Oh, man.
You know what? It's funny. The car companies, they're all untrustworthy. I mean, if you look at the history, I mean, GM trying to hide, their big scam, their ignition problem. Ford, Volkswagen messing around. It's like, that's why we really need government oversight over these huge corporations because nobody along in the chain wants to admit they screwed up because a screw up costs billions of dollars. And
don't forget Volkswagen.
We have to.
It's not just the big three.
There almost should be an in-house investigator from the government that works in the company to monitor that type of stuff because it takes so much. It takes deaths and lawsuits before
NHTSA gets involved, and that's exactly it.
It's really criminal. It's criminal behavior, and not enough people in these companies have gone to prison for stuff that has resulted in death.
And they won't. And they won't. And it becomes, I think, for companies like Ford, I guess, and, who do billions and billions and billions of dollars of revenue, it's just the cost of doing business. I don't think that this stuff gets out without engineers saying, wait a second, we got a problem here, because there's a lot of testing that goes on. There's a lot of work that is devoted to see if there's any safety issues. So this certainly was an issue that was known about and certainly discussed, but it's an economic decision.
I bought in 2015, I bought a Ford Escape brand new, 5 weeks. I was downtown on a Friday, going to go to the Ford building Christmas party, and the car, the transmission gave out after 5 weeks of a brand new car.
Well, and here's what they're saying. There's 4,300 entries that they have in their system of people saying, hey, my transmission's bad. Some injuries, 50 previously unreported injuries, but no deaths that they say are related to this because apparently transmission goes, but you can still coast to a stop. Power steering still works, all that kind of stuff. But still, I mean, again, just another example of this kind of
It's not a
stuff.
situation that any of us want to be in.
It's
We're lodge. You're going 65. It's like, well, I've lost
Yeah.
my power. What the hell's going on? No, it's
almost
bad.
like Flint. I mean, it's like, get this done, and it goes down the chain. Get it done, get it done, get it done. And then, the guy at the bottom of the chain is supposed to say, but we don't even have the equipment to inject the chemicals into the raw water that we need so that it doesn't corrode the pipes. And that message never gets sent back up the chain.
Or it's never responded to.
It's never responded to.
Right.
Exactly.
There's just such indifference.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's what we're saying. Just such indifference.
I know, and it's the kind of thing that makes somebody think twice about buying your company's product. It's not a good thing. All right, we got to run.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, you may.
Alan Lengel has 409,000 unopened emails in his inbox.
Take the
I've
weekend.
got a lot to do this weekend.
Relax.
Wow, that is.
My husband has 5 figures. I've never seen a 6-figure one.
Well, it depends on which one I go to. Because I get 15 to 20 email pitches every day for stories that I'm never going to do.
Looking over his
Google
shoulder,
alerts.
I've only got 16,000 unread in there, but I also clean mine out about every 2 months.
Oh, okay.
I don't
That's
open
what I'm
most
going to
of
do
them.
all weekend.
I do a lot of deleting.
You got to do it page by page.
See, That's why I can never work for the federal government or for the government. I do too much deleting.
Well, yeah, you're not allowed to do that, by the way. All right. Hey, everybody.
Okay.
That's the week that was. Joel, thanks. Joel
no,
Sklar.
I
Appreciate it
love
very
being
much.
here.
Always
I can't tell you how
great to
much
have
I
you here.
enjoy
Alan, thank you.
Thank
Nancy,
you.
appreciate it very much. And thank you for watching.
weekend.
Thanks to Michael Lucido for engineering the broadcast. Have a great weekend, everybody. It is a gorgeous day today.
It really is.
81 and sunny with a high, nice little breeze blowing off the river right now. So if you can
right.
skip out of work early, I highly recommend you do so.
Yes.
Have a good one, everyone, because he already blew off the last half an hour watching this. So you might as well just take the rest of the day.
Right.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks.
All righty.
Hey, the Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit is made possible by Samaritas, which is the state's largest private foster care and adoption agency. But they do a heck of a lot more than that. They've been serving homeless families, persons with disabilities, abused and trafficked women. They're also one of the largest resettlement agencies in the state. They provide market rate and affordable housing for seniors and HUD housing for families. And they also have skilled nursing, memory care, and rehab communities in Grand Rapids, Cadillac, and Saginaw. Samaritas, thanks for their support. Great organization doing great stuff all around the state.